Hey, 412ers. This video right here is kind of on this cusp in between what we're going to focus on from our last one, the up triangle, and the new stuff that we're going to focus on in the in triangle. And I want to kind of get your participation in advance. And so I'm going to show you in just a little bit my screen and just call you to think about what do you think is in the in triangle in there. So here you go. I'm going to jump straight into that. So here's the basic triangle. You saw me in the recent video, just kind of walking through the character of God here. And so we've got the up with the Father. We've got in, if you remember, with the disciples. This is like our type of relationship, one with another in 412. Again, we could even say that this is like kind of with the church as a whole, people in the family of God. And then you've got out with the world. And so these are those three different dimensions that we're looking at. So in the first month of 412, we dove into this one that I've gotten as green here. But what we're going to dive into next, I'll use pink for this one, is we're going to talk about a triangle that we can use. Oh, that didn't show up as pink. Give me one second. Erase, and I think now we'll be ready to go. We're going to go purple. And so this triangle inside of here, what is in the in dimension? What kind of actions would we take to be able to like grow in the in dimension? If you had noted that, when we did our first score, like, hey, I scored myself as an 8, I'm doing pretty good in up. I scored myself as a 4 in, and let's say I scored myself as an 8 and out. You could see this would be the lower one. If somebody wanted to grow in the in dimension, then what would be the types of things that you would focus on? We've talked about how, the person or the people in relationship are really the disciples or church. So that, again, I want to point you back to one another. This is like your 412 group. Those are people that you're running with. This is going to be people in your family, your own biological family. These are going to be kind of disciples and other people in your sphere that you're in a relationship with. Maybe you're a part of a youth group, or maybe you gather together with people in church. Those are going to be the types of people that you would be in relationship with. You're the objects of this relationship. But what do you do? Here it was worship and prayer, or worship and read the Bible and prayer. What would they be? Now, I'm not asking, I don't know that the Bible describes three specific answers, just like up here, worship and the Bible and prayer aren't the only types of things we can do for up, but I think those are the easiest go-to areas for growth. What would you state in the up dimension, something that you do with disciples in the church, but is in the up dimension? What would you name that to be? And I'm not going to give you the answer right now. I'm going to share this with you when we get together for our next gathering over hamburgers. But I want you to do some work in advance. What would you put here in this triangle? What does the Bible show about what you would do kind of with God, because it's in the up dimension, but as a community of believers? Think about that one. And then what would you write there? What about here? The in dimension. So you're with the community of the people of God, but what do you do together in that inward dimension? Again, I'm not going to give you an answer here. I'm going to come with some that I've thought through and that I'm going to lay out as kind of like the basics for how I want us to operate. But what would you place here? What does in look like for a group of disciples? And then the same thing here. I want you to think about this. This is the out dimension. In a way, this has to do with like not only like, here it's out to the world, but what does this group of people do as like an expression of who they are? How might you experience that if you were outside of that people of group or that group of people? And so I'm really curious, what would you put in the up dimension, the in dimension, and the out dimension of this triangle right here? And this is what we're going to dig into. We're going to practice some of these things when we get together. I think 2 of the 3 we're actually going to practice together. And then another one, I want to see actually, we'll talk about it afterwards, but we'll get to incorporate into what we do even on the ride itself when we do the Trips for Kids ride. So all of that, I want to prime the pump. What do you think would go in this in triangle here? If you would write it down and even come to the gathering prepared to be able to share and discuss this. Again, there's no wrong answer. I mean, I guess there could be. Let's say that you put pizza here. That could be a wrong answer. But I don't think that if you're really going to kind of put your heart and mind into thinking like, well, the Bible shows that people do this, all of that is good. And that's actually the process that I want to spur on for you to be thinking about. So, all right, looking forward to seeing you again at the Trips for Kids ride and at our second gathering in May. Take care, guys.